Greetings, Guardians. My name is Bife here. Crow recently jumped through the portal created by Riven in a bid to follow the Witness. He's now trapped in the pale heart of the Traveler, and him and Mara must work to forge a connection that Guardians can traverse safely to follow. So far, this whole plan has gone exactly as intended, and in all honesty, that right there is what worries me. And why exactly is that? Because it was Savathun who made the 15th wish, and set out this course of events for us to follow that led to Riven. If that's suddenly ringing alarm bells for the rest of you, then good, you're understanding the main premise of the video. Today we're going to explore the idea of whether all of this works out in Savathun's favor somehow, and if this is all a part of an even more elaborate scheme that Savathun has woven into what we absolutely need to do for the universe to be saved from the Witness. But first, I have a little advice for everyone who is making a New Year's resolution. Don't think too big. Something like 85% of New Year's resolutions fail because we go way over the top all at once and try and move the world in one moment. If you're going to commit to a New Year's resolution, you need something that's more manageable and can be broken down into smaller goals. This is why, if you're looking to improve your skincare, our partners for this sponsored video, Geologie, are the right call for you. Saying, I want to have better skin to better myself is easy, but knowing what products to get and what to do with them is a mammoth task, and that's often where you fail. Geologie, though, helps to solve that problem. And what do you know? It's not some massive pile of products to use without direction, it's a focused routine that cuts out the unnecessary stuff, and just focuses on delivering quality products with dermatologist-approved ingredients. When it arrives, you can even see that on the products themselves it says step 1, 2, 3 or 4, so you know what to do, you know what order to use them in, and the directions are clearly on the back. It's not some tiny illegible piece of scrap. It's there, right in front of you. I've been using Geologie for a few months now, and it's the small things that I love about it. It isn't complicated, and it fits right in with my morning routine. But don't take my word for it alone. Geologie has over 7,000 5-star reviews and has received 29 prestigious awards. Kick off the new year right and get some massive savings in the process. You can get 70% off your personalized skincare trial. Yes, that's 70. And if you're putting on additional add-ons to it, you can get 30% off those. That's $49 worth of products for something close to $15. Use code BIFE100 or click the link in my description. Thanks again to Geologie for sponsoring this video. Anyway, back to the lore. So we're making one big assumption in the midst of all this, and that's that Savathun hasn't tampered with the wish in any way, and that she doesn't have something to gain from the circumstances created by the wish. That is an assumption, and it means that everything that follows in this entire video could genuinely just be a lot of speculating about nothing. There is a genuine possibility that Savathun understands the stakes, and understands that tampering with things could risk the entire universe in the process. Given that she and all things she manipulates are currently located in the universe, she has a vested interest in not getting in our way. To that notion, I will say, fair enough, but I have two counterpoints. First of all, dragon wishes, especially those made with prohibitive visual language, such as that which is contained in the wishing wall, have the ability to be incredibly specific. Riven granted this wish, and we know that it's made a portal into the Traveler for one person to go through, but we don't know if there's anything else that Savathun tacked into the end of the wish that hasn't been disclosed. If she did add a little extra something in there, we might not even learn about it until it's too late. Secondly, I think it's worth remembering that this is Savathun we're talking about, the Queen of Lies and Deception, the one who has plans within plans within plans. She might have wished for the portal and been completely sincere in the process, but that doesn't sound like what she'd do. When she created the curse on the Dreaming City, Riven noted that that was merely an introduction and that Savathun was just at play. Savathun being at play damned the whole of the Dreaming City and one of her own offspring in the nightmare existence of an eternal 3-week cycle from which there is no escape and seemingly no change. So yeah, if you had to ask me to bet on this, I would say that there is at least a chance that Savathun has further tampered with the 15th wish. Do we know that to be the case? Of course not. But that's why I preface this entire point by saying this video from here on out is speculative. With the long disclaimer out of the way, let's talk about the circumstances created by the 15th wish and examine what Savathûn stands to gain. We know that the 15th wish originally was created with the specific circumstances of following the witness. However, Riven later reveals to us that it is a wish that specifically allows a one-person transit to the pale heart of the traveler. That's the only part of this that's been stated that is specific, and I believe that that matters. There might be a reason for it. We know that the plan hatched by Mara, Crow, and Osiris was to send Crow so that he and Mara might be able to use their connection to open a safe path for the Guardians to follow. And with that in mind, we now see a unique circumstance created ahead of the portal's reopening, and we'll likely see a second important circumstance arising during the final shape. Here and now, the first of these unique circumstances is that Crow and Mara are separated. It's safe to assume that Crow is unreachable unless there's already some presence of Savathûn's inside the Traveler, which I doubt. However, Mara is still in the same material universe, and we know that Savathûn might still be able to tamper with her in some way. In that sense, Mara might be the potential source of power that Savathûn was looking to manipulate, or perhaps maneuver to her advantage. I don't believe that Mara would ever end up being a pawn of Savathûn. She knows her as an opponent far too well. I do believe, however, that this might just be another chess move in their great game. Why separating her from Crow is important, I don't know. But there is a further point that states that Mara might need to interface with the Veil as Crow interfaces with the Traveler. And if that is a thing that guarantees some degree of weakness for Mara, maybe this was entirely the point. Again, we're not sure how that would manifest though. We will need to see. I think, however, this only then becomes more pressing when the second of the unique circumstances arises during the time of the final shape, and I say that this one is based on a further assumption, right here and right now, because it's assuming that Mara needs to remain focused for us to retain our pathway into the Traveler. Maybe she will, maybe she won't. But even if she is required to do this for a brief period of time, Savathûn has suddenly found a moment where one of her key enemies is indisposed and can make moves without the interference of Mara Sov. What Savathûn might do with this time is unknown, but knowing Mara's focus and the fact that it will be on the bridge between here and the Pale Heart, it means that she will not be focused on her typical duties. This tends to mean the Awoken and the Reef. It's not guaranteed, but perhaps there's something in the Dreaming City or the Awoken territory that Savathûn requires. If so, this would be an ideal time to acquire it. Without conflict or without being noticed, she might alternatively be trying to manipulate something in some manner that changes things for the world at large. And as for what this could be, I mean, there are any number of possibilities. Previously, Savathûn had stolen one of Riven's eggs. Maybe she'll steal some of the Ahamkara for herself and raise them in captivity. Maybe it's the case that there are secrets that she desires that link back to the original Awoken homeland of the Distributory. Or maybe she's seeking the strange, spacebound station within Reef territory known as the Cocytus Apertures, or A113. I feel like each of these are potential targets, but the reality is it could be anything within the Reef or the Dreaming City, and potentially even the Ascendant Plane surrounding those locations. So who knows? There are millions of different things that Mara might have discovered in her millions of years of existence, and all of those things may be temporarily more vulnerable if she has to focus. I think this is the most clear and obvious potential bit of trickery that Savathûn might be looking to exploit. There is another possibility I wanted to briefly touch on, and that's whether there is just another part of the 15th wish that Savathûn built in from the start, and this is one that ends up being extremely nebulous. It could be anything, so let's go ahead and say again that this is all speculation. Is it possible? Maybe, and it's definitely within Savathûn's MO. So yeah, let's think about that. Is there another bit of small text within the 15th wish that Riven just never told us about? What does the fine print say? It might be tempting to say that there is nothing left that we don't know about this wish. After all, Riven already told us about the fine print stating that there was only one person allowed to travel using that wish. But this really just opens the doorway, because we know that there are potentially moments where wishes can become incredibly specific. So, is this the only bit of fine print? We just don't know. That being said, take a listen to what Riven says in the final cutscene of the Season of the Wish, just before she disappears. I can't get this out of my head, and I hope you'll see why.
I kept my promise, as you did yours. Isn't that a pleasant surprise?
For that, at least, you have my thanks.
And you have mine for always providing such a unique challenge. To impose your desires upon reality so artfully. You could teach my children a great deal. Until we meet again, Mara.
Now, this is a lot of reaching, I need to admit that to you, but I think Riven is sending a lot of coded messages in these words. Hear me out, obviously this could just be a sincere goodbye, thank you for working with me. However, I don't know if that's the case. I don't expect any of this theory to actually be true, but what if Riven's last words here are actually containing a lot of subtext? Because it feels like there's subtext. Those last words of "until we meet again" seem to be the most obvious, implying that Riven's final influence wasn't really here and now in this moment. And of course, her influence generally will persist with her bones, it'll just be in a lot less of a manifested nature. She won't be able to speak directly to anyone with anywhere near as much strength as she had when she was an apparition. That being said, I don't know. Until we meet again seems to imply that she knows there will be another juncture at which her and Mara need to make deals. And then take a listen to that first sentence. I kept my promises and you kept yours. Isn't that a pleasant surprise? That almost feels like it's taunting. It's entirely possible that this is all genuine given the character development Riven's seen, but it strikes me as a very loaded phrase for an Ahamkara specifically to utter. It's all speculative in the extreme, but I have this terrible suspicion that this moment is rife with potential deceit. Maybe I'm just too used to seeing our enemies who try to lace their statements of support with hints of betrayal, but who knows? If something has been planned, you can bet that Savathun was the one who did it though, because again, she is the one who made the 15th wish, and she doesn't do anything without any kind of assurance that it will benefit her. If there was something more to the 15th wish, we don't know about it right now, and we might not learn about it for quite some time. If there are story ramifications to it all, I imagine it won't be visible until at least the end of the Season of the Wish, or perhaps at some far-flung point in Destiny's future. Until then, we need to watch for hints of Savathun's influence, and we need to be mindful of what's happening to Mara and Crow. Disaster isn't guaranteed, but it is entirely possible. Saving the universe requires us to enact this gambit. We needed to follow the 15th wish. Crow needed to jump through, and Mara and him needed to connect themselves from the Pale Heart and the Veil. All of this is a very specifically forged path, and seldom does one walk the path of an enemy's choosing without the enemy's goals being achieved in some manner. We are walking this way for a reason, and I merely hope that that reason is so that the universe can go on, and not so that Savathun can also accomplish another scheme. That being said, that's all from me for now. Let me know what you think in the comments section down below. Can we trust any of this? Am I just going all in on something which really doesn't require that much speculation? I don't know. Let me know what you think though. And of course, if you want to help the video and the channel, do all the typical things that the algorithm doth demand. You can like, comment, and subscribe to the channel if you want more Destiny lore content. Of course, know that as per usual, your viewership as always is quite enough for me, and that in the meantime, my name is Byf. Orodacia Arastra. I'll see you, Starside.